right, we'll fade to black. All right, let's go live in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for November 6th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Nintendo has confirmed a much-requested feature for the Switch 2, but first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Jason Finelli, everybody. Jason, how are you doing?
I am fine, but we're not going to talk about why. We're going to talk about gaming. I mean,
look, we'll just say, hey, it sucks. I'm embarrassed. I am mostly embarrassed that people can be fooled by such a loser again. I'm embarrassed to look at the women in my life, the trans people in my life. I'm embarrassed to talk to my friends that live in Eastern Europe and the Ukraine. How do we explain this? It's inexplicable because the excuses are just not there. And they, the people that vote for this want us to be miserable. They do. And there are a lot of real reasons to be miserable. There are. There's a lot of stuff could hurt a lot of people I care about very deeply. But we're gonna try to, like me and Jason were talking before the show started. We're gonna try to be a respite. We're gonna try to be a place where you can come. You're not gonna forget about this. How do you forget about these kinds of things? It's your entire life. It's there constantly. But we're gonna be a place where at least we're not gonna try to contribute to that misery. We're gonna try to do our best here to make you feel good, make you feel happy. Talk about stuff you care about in a passionate way. And when bad things happen and it's too much, maybe come here and we'll do our best to just hang out and be cool. Does that sound like something we can do, Jason? God
damn right it does. I didn't know if you wanted to address it, so that's why I was being coy. But to be completely honest, as the chat has said a couple times, shit's fucked. It just is. And you're talking about your friends, you're talking about the women and the trans folks, and I agree with you 100% with that. I had trouble looking at my own daughters. This morning.
Yeah, it's rough.
And because my 8-year-old, the older one, started showing an interest.
Yeah, my
started showing
7-year-old
like, ooh, what is voting? How does it work? What's this? Explaining the Electoral College to her was a nightmare because I couldn't do it. Right? Yeah. That's a whole other story. That doesn't even matter in this regard now. But she started to show that interest, and now I'm afraid to cultivate that interest because of what that I then have to explain to her. It kills me. But I completely echo your sentiment that we have a responsibility as goofball news reciters that we are to be goofballs and give you news and talk about it in our own special way. When you gave me the choice between Wednesday and Friday to come on, I picked Wednesday, not realizing.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it either. Yeah,
but I'm glad I'm here because if I could put some smiles on some faces in this chat with my mispronunciations of skibidi or whatever the hell it is, I am happy to do it. Or just showing the hat. There's the hat. There it is.
Beautiful.
So if I can be a little ray of sunshine on what's going to be a very cloudy day, week, month, 4 years for a lot of people, off we go.
Yep. I think we can confirm that the United States of America does indefinitely have that skibidi Ohio Riz. It's a terminal condition, and there's nothing we can do about it. Yep. Hey, we'll do our best. It's not going to be perfect. We're gonna maybe make jokes where things are serious. We're gonna. It's not going to be perfect, but I do deeply care about you people listening to this.
Damn right.
And we're going to do our best. So
let's start with something good now that I have the chance.
Please.
Over $45,000 raised through Extra Life for the team. You absolute goofballs.
Yeah.
What What an amazing 18 hours that was.
There you go. There's the mullet, everybody. There you go. I'm getting rid of this thing soon. I almost just went this morning and got rid of it. But
genuine question: over under the amount of words your wife has said to you since you came up with that mullet? 10?
It's not
15?
much. It's definitely like. I was like, I'm gonna go get a haircut. She's like, won't you be embarrassed? Like, I'm like, all right, well, listen, you don't have to hold back.
Children.
So yeah, the kid, yeah, and my children were like, I kind of like it. I'm like, hell yeah, kids. Very funny, cool. But yeah, hey, I'm deeply proud of what we did for Extra Life. It was a fun time. $45,000. We'll do it again next year. Do it again. Looking forward to it. Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with PS5 Pro reviews are out. Our own Timur Hussein wrote a review over there on GameSpot. He said, powerful on paper, but ordinary in action. Essentially, I think the first assessment most people had is where Tam ended up with the system itself. Now, I know that there's a lot of people who do have this thing and they're looking at it and they're comparing it or trying to look at some games that really take advantage of things like Horizon. They're like, no, you know what? This does look better. And I do think it's noticeable, but is it noticeable to the tune of an extra $700? Or I suppose if you trade in your PS5, an extra $350, an extra $400. And I think the at least at now, from the games that are take advantage of the PS5 Pro, the 50 to 55 games that do so, the answer's probably not really. It's not worth it in this moment for most people unless you are the most enthusiastic of enthusiasts.
Yes, I appreciated Tam's review from the perspective of the layman. Right, the normal human being who is just, am I upgrading this or am I good with my current PS5? Because that's how I assume, you and I have more knowledge than most, but we're not digital foundry knowledge, right?
Right.
Like that, which is a whole other thing we can get to in a second. But I sort of, not having tried it for myself, if I ever get the chance, I expect to be like, wow, this looks much better, but it's not different enough to justify that added cost, which seems to be, so the reviews that I read this morning, where things are landing. Although I tried to look at Digital Foundries, but it disappeared. I don't know what's going on there. Their review was taken down. I think it was copy struck or whatever the hell happened, but that hopefully they'll be able to dig into the more technical side of it. But at the moment, powerful on paper, ordinary in action. I expected to see it and be like, oh yeah, I noticed a couple differences, but nothing to make me want to jump in. So I'm not surprised by these reviews really at all.
Yeah, it's just that's where gaming is at right now. That's where console gaming is at. Gaming across the board, sort of. I think every time the systems come up, I've pointed out that the thing I've noticed is the thing holding back games is no longer the hardware. It is now time and money, and and now you have more powerful hardware. So technically, it's even more time and even more money required to take advantage of fresh, new, more powerful systems. And that's not happening. Games aren't getting bigger budgets now just because there's new hardware out. So yeah.
And I saw that I agree with you there. And I saw some analysis, so a thread on X or something I was reading. Maybe this was a review that I can't remember exactly what it was. And if it was you, please show yourself. PS4 Pro had a much bigger impact when it launched because at the time, the PS4 was creaking under its own weight with the amount of games that were available for it. Backwards compatibility had just come to it. And it was a noticeable improvement. That sort of situation is not happening here. Because the amount of, especially in first party, the amount of games just isn't there.
Yeah,
right?
The amount of games and the PS5 itself is a much different beast than the PS4 was, where the PS5, they treated with love and care and thought it could be a success. When they launched the PS4, they were not sure, so they put a netbook CPU in there, and they really limited the amount of investment they made into the GPU. It was a the whole console generation was rough. They were both pretty bad consoles, the Xbox One and the PS4. So the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X were very welcome.
Yeah, and that sort of iterative jump isn't quite needed yet at this stage of the game, if it's ever needed at all. So the fact that they're trying to go back to this and it ultimately isn't doing much more than, as Tam puts it, a luxury item for tech enthusiasts, that's not surprising to me that it's not going to be. I mean, it'll probably still sell because it's PlayStation, and some people are just tech enthusiasts who have to be at the top of the line. But will I be surprised if Sony's like, it's not doing as well as I had hoped? No, I won't.
Yeah, that's what that was actually going to be my next question. Is like, okay, whatever, the reviews, how the thing actually performs, maybe doesn't matter so much. Like, the reality on the ground is people want shiny new things. Are enough people going to buy this shiny new thing? And I think the combination of the price and the perceived quality of the base PS5, as we've come to call it, is kind of, those things are going to combine to create a situation where maybe I think a few fewer people actually end up getting the PS5 Pro relative to the PS4 Pro. So I think the final sort of split that Sony points to is that about 10-11%, 1 in 5 people who purchase the PS4 of any kind purchase the PS4 Pro, and it probably will end up in the same range here, but I won't be surprised if that number is actually like 8%, 9%, just a little bit lower. Sorry, I started talking about percentage points, and I got a PTSD from yesterday. But it's
eyes are crossing.
Exactly. Hey, that's their problem, not ours. And frankly, even my problem is, do I let myself get convinced to end up buying this thing when I'm sitting here now and thinking, I don't need this. I really don't. So I don't know. That could happen to me still. I am a sucker. I've pointed that a bunch of times. I do like shiny new things. So there's still that possibility. But $700 is a big enough sticker shock that so far it has been enough to scare me off.
Yep, same. I am perfectly capable with my base level PS5 and my curved monitor here. I'm finally playing through Rebirth, and I don't think I'm missing anything by the graphical improvements that the Pro give. I can play Rebirth just fine and get what I want, which is a very confusing, when is this going to actually go somewhere story. But I am enjoying it, but that the graphics won't fix that.
No, yeah.
So I mean, I'm just playing Rebirth,
and of course, that's one of the games that apparently takes massive advantage of the PS5 Pro, and I guess that's relatively speaking as well, because that was the one that had a little bit of a blur when you played it in the performance mode to it. So they fixed that up, and most other games don't have that issue, so that's why it's a bigger improvement. All right, let's get into a whole batch of Nintendo news. Nintendo did drop their earnings report earlier this week. There's been sort of more out of that. The CEO has come out a couple times and expanded on a few things. I think they did end up having their Q&A with investors. They usually have that the day after, and that's happened now. So let's start here with Furukawa getting out on social media and confirming a new feature, or a requested feature for the Switch 2. Switch 2 will be backwards compatible with the Switch. Nintendo has fully confirmed now. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC, and I see someone highlighting the headlines now. I think Sean has... yeah, there we go. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. So now we have headlines again. All right. Switch 2 will be backwards compatible with Switch. Nintendo confirms. Jordan Midler, VGC. Nintendo has confirmed that the successor of the Nintendo Switch will be backward compatible with the Nintendo Switch. In a post on Twitter, a message from Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa also announced that further information about the successor to the Nintendo Switch would come at a later date. I'll read the message he posted. This is Furukawa, which is how they always start their stuff. I love it. At today's corporate management policy briefing, we announced that Nintendo Switch software will also be playable on the successor to the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the successor to the Nintendo Switch as well. Further information about the successor to the Nintendo Switch, including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, will be announced at a later date. So, Jason, let me ask you, do you read this as full compatibility across the board, with no exceptions?
Yeah. That would include physical media. I mean, how else are you supposed to take that? I feel like Nintendo is a company that's comfortable enough to have made the distinction if it was just digital downloads versus digital and physical. They just say it's backwards compatible on the successor to the Switch, which tells me that they're either going to keep the cartridge format that they have now, or they've included 2 slots.
Yep.
Or kind of like how 3DS and 3DS, right? That slot on top, slot on the bottom.
Yes, and the DS had a Game Boy Advance slot on the bottom.
Yep.
Is
something like that.
The thing I remember the most. 3DS used might be actually how they actually end up doing it, which I think there was one slot, but there's like a little tab on the side of 3DS games. I could be mixing this up, but I think that's how it is. Just a little.
I think you're right. Yeah,
almost imperceptible tab, and that would prevent you from putting those games in a DS. But you could put DS games in a 3DS, and that's probably how this is going to go down. There's been some advancements in the kind of flash memory that Nintendo puts on for their game cards they use, and it's still not as cheap or readily accessible as like a CD or something like that, or a DVD or a Blu-ray even. But there's been advancements there. They're more storage. So they should be able to like have much bigger games this time around, which will be a requirement. But in doing that, they will probably have to have a new format, but it could look very similar to the Switch format as it stands. So yeah, I think one side of it, like you mentioned, physical, digital, all should just work. That's kind of what they're implying here. The other side of it is, and I think this is not like a huge surprise to anybody, but like there's motion control games that need a Joy-Con to work. So this system is probably going to be a lot like the Switch one, which we were already assuming, right?
Yeah, because that prototype had come out the last time we were here, where the dock looked like Homestar Runner and the magnetic, the magnetic Joy-Cons on either side. So that makes sense. I mean, I fully expected it to be more of an iteration in form factor and have all the improvements be under the hood. What I am curious about is 2 things. One, will the cartridges taste the same?
Oh, and I bet they'll taste even worse.
And 2, I'm being told to emphasize by Sean in the chat.
Oh, motherfucker!
Switch cartridge. Just want to make sure I say that right.
I was going to let it go. I was going to let it go. I was going to be like, I'm going to be the bigger man and not make a point of it. They're not cartridges, everybody. They're game cards. Cartridges imply that they become like part of the system instead of just holding memory. They're just game media like CDs. How dare you, Sean? But yes,
old man yells at clown. Sorry.
I was trying not to be that man. I was trying, but leave it up to Sean to just press the button. Yeah, game cartridges, whatever. It's all the same.
We found out this weekend you're the smaller man, apparently.
Apparently, yes. That's right. That's definitely true. The thing that I'm like still curious about is, okay, so like the first couple of sentences say like what we're expecting. We kind of broke those down, but then they're like, there will be more information about how this works. This compatibility works with the Switch 1 to Switch 2. Does that make you believe that maybe there's more to this, like improved performance from some Switch games automatically on Switch 2? Do you think that that's maybe what they're implying here, or is it something less than that?
I don't think Nintendo gives a crap about stuff like that. I think the Switch cards are going to work the way the Switch cards work, and then the new Switch successor cards with the little notch or whatever the form factor is, is going to perform another way. It maybe you'll get a better battery life out of the Switch 1 games because they're not using as much of the
that's a good point
more powerful internal hardware, so you might get more gameplay on the go. But other than that, no. As soon as you said the notch in the 3DS card, exactly how I think it's going to go down now. Just as similar as it could be without being too different. Now that also runs into a Wii U scenario where it might, if the name is not different enough, then the look of it won't help either. So hopefully it's not just called Switch 2. It's something different enough that they don't add that extra layer of confusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if everything's going to be as similar as we think it will with the leaked dock from the last time I was on, plus now this backwards compatibility conjecture that we're doing here. That I think is the last big pitfall with Switch 2, the actual naming of it. If it's different enough, I think they won't fall into that Wii U thing again. But
yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way to avoid that is just call it a Switch 2, right? If it's a Switch 2, everyone who buys stuff understands what that means. It works. It's worked for the PlayStation without fail so far. And if you're going to be the most conservative version of Nintendo and hope to avoid that's the answer. I think
that's true. I do like Switch Advance, though.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, Nintendo's been able to pull it off before, so it's not like I don't think they would shy away if they feel like they have a name that sounds really good and works really well. I think they'll do it. But if that's their biggest concern, Switch 2 is the easiest way to avoid that. So
sure, that's right.
You know, and I think there's no way it doesn't have the Switch name, though, right? It's definitely going to have...
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yes.
Has to. If only for familiarity of those who are not familiar with games alone.
Yep. I think, last thing on this point is, so if games do get some improvement, though, maybe not automatic, because we know that they were, according to the reporting, showing off an improved version of Breath of the Wild to some developers at like Gamescom the year before, the year prior, not this past Gamescom, but the year prior, maybe, or maybe it was this past one. That's all conflated in my head. But so it's like one of the big things with this system is they're like, no, those games can run better. Do you think the possibility here is that the change that they might talk about at a future date could be, and here's how that works, and some of these games will have $10 upgrades, things like that?
I think they might have seen the $10 upgrade model from Sony and like what they're seeing there. Like if you own the cart and you can just verify it, or if you have the digital license, you just pay an extra small fee. I don't know. It might not even go the full $10. They might try and be different and go $5.99 or something a little more, marketing friendly, just to say, hey, you can turn this on for a quick upgrade for this one-time fee if you already own the game, yada, yada, yada. Also, too, though, the enhanced version of Breath of the Wild could just be from, as we were talking about earlier, the internal hardware just being better, right? Like if the battery life is better or whatever we were talking about, it could just be naturally happening on an enhanced version of the console. Then again, these companies do like making money, so the one-time fee for the expanded version, a la Sony, does make the most sense from a business standpoint, but whether or not they do that.
And then here's the scenario where it's like they might be including that caveat there at the end or that addendum because maybe it's more complex than what we're thinking. Maybe there's just a Switch inside of the Switch 2. Maybe because the Switch 2 hardware, while it will be similar to the Switch 1, it's not like one-to-one, like just, everything that works on the Switch 2 or Switch 1 would just work on the Switch 2 naturally. They had to do some work here. It's possible that the work that they did is, here's just a Switch 1 in there. Now, that's unlikely, I think, because one of the things that they emphasized Nintendo did in their earnings report is how important these game purchases are to the continued success of Nintendo, of like people feel like they're in the ecosystem. People have subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online. The games that they purchased are now tied to their Nintendo Switch account or their Nintendo account, and we want all that stuff to carry forward. And that only works if they've sort of solved a way to play these games in perpetuity beyond the Switch 2. But it's still possible they just put a Switch 1 inside of the Switch 2, and in that situation, it would be like, oh no, yeah, those games just go in there and they work just like they're running on the Switch 1. But if you do want an enhanced version of like Breath of the Wild, we're going to sell that to you again as a Switch 2 version. That sounds kind of like Nintendo to me at that point.
Yeah. The Switchception version that you've come in with, the Switch inside your Switch,
yeah.
The Russian Mastroika Switch, whatever. Damn it, Jeff.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to say that? Because that makes perfect sense.
It's just I could see them doing that, just like Nintendo be like, well, that would save us money. Actually, I don't know how much money would save them in the long run to put a Switch inside every Switch too, but it would be easier maybe than like solving the technical problems now, and then it still creates this opportunity to be like, and here is the enhanced version of all of those Switch games, and we know you all complained about the way they ran on that system. So we know that you have a craving for these games running at a higher frame rate and a higher resolution, and now we can do that. We'll see.
Be played right into their hands, Jeff.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right into their hands.
I would probably buy a version of Breath of the Wild that ran at 60 frames per second. I probably would be guilty of doing that. Hey, speaking of enhancements, though, Nintendo Switch Online data miners have discovered 4K resolution options and support for mesh shaders. We'll get into what that means here in a second, but a data miner on social media platform Blue Sky has discovered that the latest version of the Nintendo Switch Online playtest program has added support for both mesh shaders and 4K resolution. The discovery has inevitably led to speculation about the next console from Nintendo, which is set to be revealed sometime this financial year, which ends the 31st of March, 2025. Now, Nintendo Switch Online playtest program is that, weird game that I'm in. I can't talk about really, but you've probably seen some stuff online here or there. It definitely seems like something that they're testing now to like carry over into the Switch 2. I wish they would just put it out because I'm sorry, Nintendo, but I had fun. I would like to keep playing it. It's over now. At least my understanding is it should be over. I don't know if they extended it or anything. But hey, 4K resolution, 4K output resolution is probably what we're expecting here, right? The game renders internally 1080, outputs at 4K for your TV, so it just like looks nice, and you don't have to rely on the TV's upscaling. That's probably what that means, right?
Well, yeah, if it's the Switch or even the Switch 2,
even the Switch 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like what else is there? You don't really have an option other than that. Explain like I'm 5 mesh shaders.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, so mesh shaders is a new graphics rendering pipeline. It's a new way of just presenting graphics on your screen, newish. And it's something I think that NVIDIA has been pushing. I think it's primarily available. I think it's available in many of the graphics libraries like the DirectX and Vulkan, but NVIDIA sort of like pioneered it there. So that's probably one of the reasons why the Switch 2 is getting it maybe pretty early. What it does is there is a geometry shaders, and then there are these other shaders, and these things happen one, and then the other happens. And mesh shaders put them together and can intelligently know which one it needs in any one moment. So basically what it boils down to is it's way more efficient and can improve its performance in many games. One game so far that I'm aware of has taken advantage of mesh shaders, actually uses it, and that is Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 uses mesh shaders. So it's probably going to be used in a lot more games going forward. But this is good news for a lot of developers who might be considering this sort of thing, because now the Switch 2 can handle that, and it's very good for performance. That's my general understanding. I'm no expert.
Yeah, that's Alan Wake 2 was also mentioned by Sean in the chat as a game. And if they can make Alan Wake 2 look that good, like a Switch game, make it look as good as Alan Wake 2, or at least close to that, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, but like photorealistic visuals are going to be a lot easier with something like mesh shaders.
Yeah, 4K resolution, stuff like that, top of the line graphics processing makes sense for something, especially we've been waiting so long for Switch 2 to be, revealed in a certain capacity. So the fact that they're exploring these options, it all makes sense to me.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, again, like their partnership with NVIDIA. Yeah. Like that is the kind of thing that will lead to situations like this where NVIDIA is like, look, Nintendo, we're working together for the long haul. Like when we first announced this deal, we said it was going to be 20 years. Like, so we're going to be, as we make new technologies, we are going to be thinking about ways that you can use it. And when you have a new console, we're going to have a menu of options for you to select from of, can we get this into the Switch 2? And we're going to do our best to make sure that that is possible. So when we're building you your custom chip that is, necessarily less powerful than a lot of other stuff, maybe it still has all of the access to the most powerful features so that you can get the best case scenario from that less powerful chip. So, I'm excited from that perspective. And then outputting at 4K is kind of table stakes. We knew that was going to be the thing. if a single game runs natively at 4K on the Switch 2, I think I will like maybe eat a hat or something. I will be surprised if that is the case, especially
that
because
one you just took off.
Yes, the one I just took off, especially because, they're very likely will have DLSS, so there'll be less of a reason for games to run at 4K in the first place. So we'll see. All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, plenty more to talk about from these Nintendo earnings. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, let's get into it. Like I said, more Nintendo news. Nintendo Switch Online has 34 million subscribers. This is from My Nintendo News. Nintendo's latest financial report had a lot of interesting data. However, there was one thing in the report that may surprise you. You see, around this time every year, Nintendo likes to provide an update about how successful Nintendo Switch Online is. So it isn't surprising that Nintendo did the very same thing with this financial report. According to Nintendo, there are now over 34 million users that are paying for a Nintendo Switch Online subscription as of September 30th, 2024. As for more details on this, all Nintendo says is that although we did observe a year-over-year decrease in membership, partly due to fewer new releases in the past year, focusing on online play, many people continue to enjoy on Nintendo Switch Online. Yeah, I think this is kind of like, okay, this is where these sorts of services settle, right? In the 30 million to 50 million range, and they bounce up and down. I think PlayStation Plus is one that goes around like 42 to 45 million, and every once in a while it have an increase, but then it drops back down for a few quarters in a row, things like that. So Nintendo Switch Online, a system that doesn't have, Call of Duty, for example, that pushes a lot of people to get these subscription services so they can play games online on a console. This is pretty good for Nintendo Switch. Now, obviously, there are a lot of games that people do like playing on online on Nintendo Switch, but it's just not the obvious like, oh, well, I'm going to play Call of Duty. I need this. It is, I want to play Mario Party online with a friend, Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, things like that. But this is the new way of doing things. Nintendo did talk about how important it is to have a subscription service like this and Nintendo accounts, because they expect this transition from Nintendo Switch to Nintendo Switch 2, in part driven by backward compatibility, to be the smoothest one they've ever had. They called that out explicitly about how each new console generation, they sort of had to reset the clock down to zero and rebuild up the people they could sell games to. And now they expect that to be completely different. And with 34 million subscribers, that should be exactly the case, right?
Yeah, sure. And if that's where it's settling after the heyday of Super Smash Brothers, which was probably one of their biggest online contributors outside of Mario Kart, which I would like to say Mario Kart 8's heyday is over, but it's not. The game just continues to sell beyond all logic and reason. So if it's going to settle at 34 million and you're going to have that built in on the cusp of a new console, yes, they have to feel like they're sitting pretty. And also, too, the fact that the people opting for the higher tier is also steadily increasing is a great sign as well. If they continue to add more things to that expansion pack to make it more valuable in the eyes of the consumer, you might see the entire subscription base rise. So, because people might want to subscribe to online and then look at the two options and think, well, there's enough here that I can just bypass the original and just go straight into the expansion pass. It's not necessarily people who are already online and upgrading, if you know what I mean. So I think they're in a very good spot here as far as their online base, which is and my memory is like it's not lost on me how weird it is to say that Nintendo's in a good place with online subscribers.
Yes,
because it has always been a very back burner sort of deal for them. They seem to care now, which is nice. If only the games ran a little better, but that's hopefully the Switch 2 will fix that problem. But the fact that the company that has treated online as like a thing that goes with their games, not the selling point of the games, is almost at 40 million or north of 30 million subscribers. It's wild.
Yeah, I think it's clearly they see the business case for it. Clearly they see the benefits it has to the continuation, the continuity of revenue coming in from a certain subset of gamers, and they love that. So they have slowly started to have to like, all right, we do have to make improvements to justify this and keep people in our ecosystem. And they've they've done that. Now, they've like revamped their online network. Has that really manifested in any games so far? not to my knowledge. Maybe in like the recent Mario Party or stuff like that, it hasn't made that much of a difference so far. But the promise is there. And then the promise for them is also Call of Duty is coming to the Switch. The Nintendo or Microsoft promised it would. So at that point, maybe you do get a situation where it's probably not going to be the primary place that anyone plays Call of Duty, but maybe you get like 1 million, 2 million new subscribers to Switch Online from people who do want to play Call of Duty online on their Switch. And and you have the infrastructure there and ready to go to take advantage of that.
And if they can somehow utilize like hotspot technology and make Call of Duty run on the Switch as a cheaper option than say a portable PC or a Android streaming like the Razer Edge, then that's another avenue they could explore too. That might be a little more advanced for the younger crowd, but for people who are playing Call of Duty, it's something. If you're sitting on the bus and you can connect to your hotspot and get a match of Call of Duty, and while you're driving, that might appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah, and the advantage that Nintendo has over like a Steam Deck is Switch is locked down, and so the Call of Duty developers can just implement their anti-cheat stuff, and they know that the cheating is maybe least likely to come from a Nintendo Switch audience, at least Nintendo Switch 2 audience even more so, because that will be more secure than the Switch 1. So yeah, I think that they'll be able to like get those games without the worry that the anti-cheat has broken. So we're just going to stop putting games out on or putting them out as compatible with the Steam Deck, which is something that's happened a couple times now. And for a handful of games, they were like, we're never putting out a Steam Deck version because of the anti-cheat stuff. So yeah, there's it could still have a place in the market for something like that. But in the meantime, when I look at Nintendo Switch Online and the reasons I have it, I think I mostly have it because it's cheap enough to justify it like as an impulse purchase, like $50 a year for Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. That's significantly cheaper than any of the other options. More than or less than half the cost of a year subscription to. It might be like less than a third of the cost of like the PlayStation Plus Premium service that I got the other day. So yeah, it's just kind of easy to justify it. But if Nintendo's trying to grow it, they just put out the music app as one of the things like hey, this is part of Nintendo Switch Online. If you have a membership now, you can use this app and listen to music. I don't think that's growing it, but it maybe helps people justify keeping it, or
sweetens the deal.
Sweetens the deal, right? Maybe it helps people convince themselves to pick up the service here or there, but I don't think it's a huge difference. That said, beyond like big third-party games dropping, are there features they could add to Nintendo Switch Online to grow it?
I mean, you have to expand the I don't remember what they call it, but like Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
They just call it Nintendo Switch Online, like Nintendo 64 and stuff like that. So,
So they would have to add maybe other consoles if they can figure out the GameCube. I think that would be a bit of a boon, or even some of their other handhelds. Maybe, I don't know how you would do DS on the Switch. Maybe turn it sideways and have one side of the screen be the touch screen and the other side be that probably be the most logical way to do it.
One of my hopes for the Switch 2 is because of the magnetic connectors. Maybe you can flip the Switch screen sideways and there's magnetic connectors on the top and the bottom.
There you go.
So you get a vertical screen like in Tate mode. That would rule.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But
wow, that's a great idea.
I would hope so, but I doubt it.
Yeah, more deal sweeteners like that to get more people in are safe. I don't know that, like you said, the Nintendo Music, despite them already updating it twice since it launched, Super Mario Wonder and Donkey Kong Country 2 are now on there.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be enough. It's going to be enough to, because I've wanted to stream Nintendo's music forever, and I finally have a solid option to do that for some games, not all of them, but some. It's not enough for the layman, though.
Nope.
That they would need more. Maybe they do the free games every month, like for once a month, like a game you can play it for free for the entire month, and then it goes away. Like a little sort of how Games with Gold worked, but it's a temporary thing. So it's like Game Pass, Games with Gold hybrid. I don't know. I don't envy the people that have to make that decision. But for me, it would just be like more free stuff because that seems to be what people are most attracted to.
Yep, I think you're probably right there. All right, let's. I think this is the last. Now, a couple more Nintendo stories. Nintendo reports rapid growth for Metroid, Xenoblade Chronicles, and more. Basically, they put out a chart showing how Pikmin, Kirby, Metroid, and Xenoblade Chronicles have all seen significant growth as franchises on the Switch compared to the Wii U and 3DS. Now, let's go with Metroid here, for example. Metroid has sold 4.99 million units of video games across all the games released for the Switch. And then it sold just 0.98 million for 3DS and Wii U games. Now, if you might remember, there weren't a lot of Metroid games released for the Wii U, things like that. But hey, yeah, I do not doubt that this series has seen growth. Just like, Kirby's at 15 million on the Switch, where it was 5.62 million on the Wii U and the 3DS. Pikmin, 7.86 million on the Switch. It was 1.78 million on the Wii U and 3DS. And then Xenoblade Chronicles, 7.17 million on the Switch, where it was 1.41 million on the Wii U and the 3DS. It's the Switch effect, and I suppose this is Nintendo saying the Switch effect has filtered down all the way from, it's not just Zelda and Mario. Like, Zelda was the biggest glow up in terms of franchise always did well, but then Breath of the Wild is a game that sold like 35 million copies or something like that. More than 30 million copies, which is just unheard of from just about any other kind of game. So that had the biggest effect, but that effect, it applies across the board, including franchises like Pikmin and Metroid. Do you think this is them saying, hey, if you like these franchises, we're going to stick with them because we've seen this growth and that growth can continue?
I hope so, because it seems to me that the logical idea of releasing a game on a console that's successful will warrant success for those dormant franchises. I think Animal Crossing might be another great example.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Also had the benefit of launching during a global pandemic, which nobody could see coming.
Although recently, Animal Crossing has started to pick up in terms of sales. Like, it's outselling most other games except for Mario Kart. Like, its sales are picking up. That's again. Amazing. Yep.
Wow. But yeah, looking at this chart here that you've now shared on the screen, this releasing games on the popular console and you get better sales. It just seems like simple math to me. Kirby has had what? 2, maybe 3 launches on the Switch?
More than that. If you can count some. Yeah,
this does not include digital, according to downloadable titles.
Yeah, this does not include downloadable only, but there was because there was that Kirby
Forgotten
remaster
Land.
Remake. There's Forgotten Land.
Yeah.
So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they've done a lot with Kirby.
Yeah,
they had 3 in 1 year.
Yeah, it's not the one that has the most sales on this chart, but I think the biggest beneficiary is Xenoblade.
Yeah,
you had 2 core entries in that series, each one with a DLC expansion, and I think the Switch specifically has taken Xenoblade Chronicles from sort of a niche RPG to more in the conversation of one of the best ones you can play right now.
Yeah, and I think they did. They did exactly what you said, right? Like, just make it available on the console. They have done that with Xenoblade Chronicles, where
all 3.
Yes, and now they're gonna, Xenoblade Chronicles X is gonna be on there, and all the DLCs are all on there. It's a Xenoblade Chronicles machine. And that has clearly been people feel comfortable investing not just their money, but their time and their emotions into a franchise when they feel like it's easily accessible to get to the rest of that. I think that's been sort of the lessons learned from Resident Evil, right? Where it's people feel good about investing their time in that franchise because they know Capcom's going to, 1, keep supporting it. They're going to keep putting out re-releases and remasters and remakes so that it makes it easy to play the whole thing. And that's what people want. People want long-term investments in franchises. Xenoblade Chronicles is clearly taking advantage of that. And then, Pikmin, I think Pikmin's just a breakout hit now. It was, 1.78 million on the Wii U and the 3DS. Pikmin 3 came out on the Wii U. And then 3 Deluxe and 4 come out on the Switch and just kind of crush it. They are, especially in Japan, where the franchise has really, really caught on. So good for Pikmin. All right, let's see here. Nintendo reconfirms release schedule for its upcoming movies. This is from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. Nintendo's expansion into cinema is well underway, and this week it provided an update on what is to come. Its current plans for visual content, as it calls it, are seemingly still on track. After the release of the Super Mario Bros. Movie in cinemas last year, The film has now been viewed by approximately 170 million people worldwide. As for what's to come, a new animated film based on the world of Super Mario Brothers is still locked in for an April 2026 theatrical release. Then this will at some point be followed by a live-action film based on the Legend of Zelda series from Sony Pictures. Always fun to point out that that's being made by Sony. That currently has a 22x date, so sometime in the 2020s for that. Super Mario Brothers 2 obviously coming. I think I'm getting to the point where it's like I don't know if that Zelda movie ever comes out.
No, I don't either. I think, man, I really wish they'd put 2 X's there just so we could say that like Legend of Zelda is happening in the Mega Man franchise.
Yeah.
that would make me laugh. No, Super Mario Bros. 2 is, if that date moves at all, I'll be shocked. I think it's around the time that the first one released, which was a sweet spot, and 170 million people can't be wrong, right?
Yep.
So that one's basically a lock. I'm a little more confident than you, I think, in the live action Legend of Zelda, just because they have to see what Sega is doing, and we're going to talk about them in a little while, with this whole transmedia strategy that they have. They have now a third Sonic movie coming out, Yakuza series, which has not reviewed well, but is still there. They have Shinobi, which is coming, a game and a movie. So they're starting to dredge up old franchises and get them out there in more ways than one, which shows that there's value in at least the attempt. I think there are other problems with a Legend of Zelda movie, like how do you do that?
Yeah, the tone, the characterization,
mute. I would love a Ganondorf origin story, but that's just me.
That'd be fun. That sounds like a Peacock show or something. Yeah,
that's true too. But yeah, so I'm not shocked by Mario 2 being locked in. No. I do think the Zelda movie comes out, but that X in that 2020X is doing some heavy lifting. We could be talking like 2029. But yeah, good luck, Westball. Good luck with that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hopeful. But boy, I bet the scripts are coming in and they're just like, no, not this one. This is not working. But,
no. Well, could you imagine being in that room? Oh my God.
I mean, all the masters got to serve. What? Yeah, like where you got to make Miyamoto happy with your Zelda script. That seems impossible. Don't expect a major Mass Effect announcement this week for N7 Day. This is something that comes around every year. This is from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot, but basically he's just saying they're trying to tamper expectations. N7 Day happens every year, November 7th. People celebrate Mass Effect because N7 was his rank, right? It's his rank.
It was the Spectre rank. The designation of the Spectre.
Yes, that's right. There could be a man or a woman. And then they each year sometimes make announcements. They at least acknowledge it over there at BioWare. But they just released a game. No surprise that they're not going to have something to say about Mass Effect at this point. Although they did confirm that they have shifted to Mass Effect, right? That was some news yesterday. Sure. That they put out Dragon Age, and they're saying no Dragon Age DLC expansion, like story expansion, like we've done a lot in the past, because we are all moving to Mass Effect to get that done. So that's some news, but don't expect news beyond that. Some new re-reveal of Mass Effect 5 because they're busy. They just did one game. They're getting to work on that one right now.
Now, I think you might get a teaser or two. It won't be anything substantial. It may just be a continuation of the teaser that they did last year, and they'll focus on fan art and cosplay and all that other stuff that the community has been doing for years now. But I agree with this. I mean, it sucks that the timing is so close between Dragon Age and N7 Day that you have to kind of temper the N7 expectations, because I like that. I like this. I love Mass Effect. I love the entire trilogy. Andromeda, it happened. We don't talk about it that much. But I'm a huge fan, so I like being reminded of this franchise and how much I enjoyed playing it in 2007, 2010, and 2012. God damn, it's so long ago. But I get that they don't want to step on Dragon Age's toes, and it seems like Dragon Age is doing well critically and commercially, I think. So I get it. They want to maximize that as much as possible. Plus, I know I say this a lot when I'm on here, but a Mass Effect update sounds like a Keighley thing. So you might see something there. Just wait a month, December 7th or whatever the date is, instead of November 7th. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Give Dragon Age a little bit of space and then do it later. But Yeah, I get it. It's disappointing that it won't be too much of a blowout this year, but you don't want to mess with your game that just came out and you worked so hard on. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, how do you feel about them also like saying, hey, we're not going to do DLC for Dragon Age the Veilguard? I know people have a lot of fondness for certain BioWare expansions. But it also feels like maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like every dollar spent on an expansion pack for one of these games probably returns less than every dollar spent on a new Mass Effect, right?
Sure. Yeah, and not only that, it takes manpower away from getting the new Mass Effect out as soon as possible, or as soon as a non-crunch situation would allow. Hopefully, but yeah, I don't. If they are satisfied with the story that they told, then and they feel that it can stand on its own legs without being expanded upon, why then should we demand an expansion? You know what I mean? Like if they're happy with the story, then why? That's it. That's the story they told. We don't have to agree with it. We're the fans. We're the critics. We will come out with our opinions on what that story is. But if they're good, then I guess we have to be good, right?
Yep.
What is it? Is it an interesting choice? Yes. Did I expect there to be DLC? Yes. But to hear that there's not, and they're going to focus on Mass Effect more, as someone who may be admittedly biased that I enjoyed Mass Effect more than I enjoyed Dragon Age to this point, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I get that. I think if Dragon Age kind of continues to roll here and maybe outperforms where it's even at this moment, I could see a world where it's like maybe not an expansion, but maybe an expand alone, a like half sequel between. Sometime soon after Mass Effect comes out, a smaller team working with the same assets puts out a smaller game, more focused. I would welcome that, but
perhaps even a different genre.
Maybe,
like
maybe
like a roguelike would fit Dragon Age well.
Yeah, I mean,
a
turn-based, like go back to turn-based for a smaller story. Yep. Yeah, something like that could be very cool. But, maybe they also get busy remaking the Dragon Age games as a Dragon Age trilogy. Anyway, let's get to the next story. Why a Dragon Age trilogy compilation may never happen. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. BioWare released a compilation package for its Mass Effect series bundling the original trilogy, but could the studio do the same for the Dragon Age franchise? Don't get your hopes up, but nothing has been ruled out. BioWare creative director John Epler said in an interview that this would be especially difficult because the first two Dragon Age games were made with the Eclipse engine before Dragon Age Inquisition shifted to Frostbite. Epler told Rolling Stone that he's one of maybe 20 people still working at BioWare who has experience with Eclipse, which could make putting it together a compilation package difficult. I remember around the time of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition when I was doing the reporting on that, a lot of BioWare fans were coming to like, okay, now what about Dragon Age? When is that going to get a trilogy? And I remember asking about this, and this is exactly what I heard. For one thing, Mass Effect is easy because it was all in Unreal Engine. So when they build the tools to like take something from the old Unreal Engine and sort of spiff it up, it just works across the board. It really streamlines that process. That would not be possible with the way the Dragon Age games work. Being in two games being in an older engine and then one game being in Frostbite, none of them being in Unreal. So even the work they've done on Mass Effect would not apply to any of them. The other factor that they pointed out is, Mass Effect is for the most part, 1 through 3 is one big story. It all like one leads into the other, and it's one character, and that so like does make sense as a package. Whereas Dragon Age is each story is more self-contained. Some of them very self-contained, and so they'd be doing this work, and maybe it wouldn't actually have the same impact as a Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So I think they continue to lean away from doing this. It'll be a lot more work and maybe not worth the effort in the way Mass Effect was. So I would not expect this to happen. How about you?
I don't know about a full trilogy, but maybe they go back to the well for a remake of Origins or
that sounds like a possibility
too.
Yeah,
but I think that makes more sense than a compilation just based on the fact that they were using a completely different engine at the time. And if there's only 20 people still working there that have experience with the old engine, that really says a lot about the industry as a whole, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yep.
So, but that's another story here. But yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yep. All right. New Virtua Fighter game is in development. This is from Jason Finelli at GameSpot. Some schmo.
Schmuck.
So last year at the Game Awards, Sega announced new entries in multiple franchises within their backlog, including Jet Set Radio. Crazy Taxi, and Streets of Rage. Today, one of the company's executives confirmed that another classic Sega franchise will be punching its way back into the limelight as a new Virtua Fighter has been confirmed to be in active development. This was from an interview over at VGC, right?
Yes. So they were speaking with Justin Scarponi, I'm not sure who that is. He is the VP and head of their global transmedia group that I mentioned earlier. And he flat out was like, so here's the full quote. We have a suite of titles in development right now that fall into that legacy bucket, which we announced last year at the Game Awards. Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Streets of Rage, Shinobi. And we have another Virtua Fighter being developed. And so all that's very exciting. There it is. That's it. That's the confirmation. Another Virtua Fighter is being developed. 7 words in a sentence have confirmed what people have wanted since technically 2007 when Virtua Fighter 5 first launched on Xbox. A wild way to find out, but something after Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown and the way it was received by Sega, not completely out of the realm of possibility. I think we all kind of had the feeling, us Virtua Fighter fans, all five of us, that and once Ultimate Showdown came out and the way that they were like, whoa, okay, people will really have a taste for this, it's probably something that's going to happen. I don't know if it would be more of a reboot thing or if they would just create 6. That has not been discussed. I don't know if they're going to call it Virtua Fighter Cross Esports like the last time when they announced Ultimate Showdown. It was originally called, and we all went, huh? That was one of the most confusing announcements I've ever heard. But I'm telling you right now, the instant I see a trailer that starts with that iconic put the coin in sound from Virtua Fighter 2, I may launch into space because I cannot wait for Virtua Fighter 6. It's gonna be great. Nice to see it confirmed. I would have liked more than 7 words in a sentence, but hey, any confirmation at all that it's being developed works for me. Now, if he comes back and says, "Oh, I was just kidding," then he's dead to me. But for now, I'm feeling pretty good about another Virtua Fighter coming up.
Yep. Yeah. I like Virtua Fighter a whole bunch. Would love to see this return. I think this is the right Sega to do this. They're in the right position now. They are firing on all cylinders. They seem to have a strong backbone that creates the opportunity to take risks with some of these things. They know they can rely on Atlas. They know they can rely on Like a Dragon. They're kind of shifting things around to make their PC gaming space stuff make sense again. So Total War, but Creative Assembly's also got several other irons in the fire. So all right, now you have all these other classic franchises. They're gonna do a bunch of stuff with that. They got, like you said, Streets of Rage, Jet Set Radio, all this stuff coming back, and apparently we've kind of known from the beginning that was just the beginning. They do have a lot of other ideas for these older franchises. Virtua Fighter getting sort of to be the next one in that parade is awesome, and I hope this initiative is super successful for them because I love that this is where Sega's at. This rules. And I hope it doesn't blow up in their face. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of Capcom vibes. So Vector Man fans, Comic Zone fans, Sword of Vermilion fans, there's still hope for you.
There is.
Just keep hoping. So if we're going to move to the last story here, I just want to breaking news in from the chat to the Game Mess Mornings news desk. Jimbo plushie now available for pre-order via Balatro Game on X.
Who wouldn't
want a Jimbo plushie that stares into your soul while you sleep? These plushies will be a limited run, so make sure you pre-order ASAP. And I am not buying that creepy ass motherfucker. But it looks cool. But good for you. Go find that. Thank you for dropping that in the chat. Whoever did that. All right, go for it.
Amy got very excited about multiple houses had several scary clowns, and she was like, "I love this." So maybe I'll get that for her. Although then I was like, yes, but then I was like, should we watch a scary clown movie? And she goes, maybe when I'm older, maybe when I'm a teenager. I'm like, yeah, all right, good call, kid. Good call. Well done. Good way to know yourself. All right, last story here that I have. The secret actor behind Metal Gear Solid 3's Ava has been revealed after 20 years. This is from Michael McWhirter at Polygon. For the past 20 years, the identity of the woman behind Ava in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater has been a closely guarded secret. The actor credited with the role is Suzetta Monet, but the name is a pseudonym for a much more famous voiceover artist. A new video from Konami promoting the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 remake reveals. The third episode of the Metal Gear Solid Legacy series, hosted by David Hayter, reveals that the actor behind Ava in Snake Eater is Jodie Benson. She's best known for her role as Ariel in Disney's The Little Mermaid and Barbie in Pixar's Toy Story franchise.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
The fact that they had her just doing the voice and no one knew for 20 years.
No one said a word for 20 years. Ariel has been part of your world for 20 years and nobody said a thing. That is wild to me. The way that later on she talks about 7 years ago, an unnamed convention, someone slipped a copy of Snake Eater to her to sign, and she said, "Why are you bringing this to me?" And he said, "Because you're in it." And she said, "Do you know my deep dark secret?" And he said, "Yeah." And she said, "Keep it quiet." So, and also
That's
too,
awesome.
she explained why she did that. That's because this was such a departure from her child-friendly, family-friendly things.
Right. She said she did family-based, children-based projects throughout her career. And so voice acting director Chris Zimmerman suggested that she go with a pseudonym.
Yeah, which I get that logic. That absolutely makes sense to me. And honestly, it makes for a better reveal 20 years later when we could all appreciate it a little bit more.
That's very cool.
Metal Gear Solid 3 modders. I look forward to the Ariel mod coming soon to the PC version. And I love how she picked the name too. What was your dog's name growing up? Suzette Monet. You know what? Let's build on that. How about Suzetta? And instead of Monet, like the artist, we'll do Minet. And Jody was like, deal, done. Watch that video. It's great.
This is a very cool thing. I love when I love when this sort of thing happens. How often does something like this actually happen? It's just such a unique scenario. So
such a goofy story.
Absolutely. But yeah, man, I'm getting excited for Delta. I wish it was coming out this year, but
me too. They didn't announce when it's coming out.
No.
Like it's still. They still say 2024. Better get on that. Running out of time here or there, pals.
I'm sure Konami is working with hand in hand with Jeff Keighley for the Game Awards on that one. They love each other.
Oh, are they? Could you imagine? they come out holding hands on this. Oh my God! Wow.
Cats and dogs living together. Yep. No way.
Anarchy.
All right. Let's see here. I got the poll question. Let me get to that real quick. All right. There we go. Let me refresh, actually. Did we put the poll question up? Because, we didn't. I forgot Jan was sick, so we didn't put up the poll question. So here's what we're going to do. We'll get that poll question, we'll put it up, and then we'll also put up today's, and we'll do both tomorrow here on Game Mess Mornings. And by we, I mean, yes, me. I forgot, everybody. Look, well, my bad. Sean was traveling, Jan was sick, and I am a bad person. So you could see how this sort of thing would happen. But new poll question will be, do you think the live-action Zelda movie will ever come out? Yes or no? I'm just kind of curious to see where people are at with this. And we'll get the results of that and talk about in Game S Mornings here on Giant Bomb tomorrow. Before we get to what's happening on Giant Bomb, though, Jason Finelli, what's going on with you? Where can people find you on the internet?
I'm still writing news for GameSpot, as we talked about earlier. Had a second feature go live on Rolling Stone. Spoke to the folks behind Metal Slug Tactics about bringing modern retro games to the modern era, as half of it was with the CEO of the studio, Aurelian Luz, which is a great name. And then the other half is with the .emu CEO, Cyril Imbert, talking about all the things that they've done with Streets of Rage and Windjammers. And he also talks about a game that he would, like his next game, his dream project, but not his next game, it's not confirmed, but his dream project, the game he would like to bring back into the limelight, be it in its original form or in a new form. And the answer might surprise you because it surprised me. I'm going to make you go read the article, though, to find out. Other than that, I am, big man Finelli on basically everything, every social media that there is, including Blue Sky. If you are traveling to bluer skies, I am over there as well. And, to have a couple features from MagicCon in Vegas a couple weeks ago. One's already up. I spoke to Blake Rasmussen, who is the head marketing guy, and Aaron Forsyth, who is one of the heads of design for Magic the Gathering, talking about the next year of what they're coming out with, like the Final Fantasy set, the Spider-Man set, the SpongeBob Secret Lair, which has been an interesting reaction, and all the things that they're planning on doing there. It was an interesting conversation. Have another one coming out soon, specifically about Foundations, which goes into pre-release this week. Sorry if that's Greek to you, but for those who it's not Greek to, I promise it'll be good stuff. Yeah, that's what's happening here. Now we're just running out the clock till 2025 and moving and starting the year off over again.
Yep. As far as Giant Bomb goes, I think we're probably going to kick a few things from today just to let people, take some time. So no Blight Club today. If we do one later this week, we'll let you know. But I was just saying in Slack, we should take it easy today. So no Blight Club. I might stream something here in a little bit by myself, just hang out with y'all. But if I do, I'll let you know. I could also just pull the ripcord on that as well. We'll see how we're feeling. But we should be back to normal things here in the next couple days. We'll keep you all posted. But yeah, let's take care of each other. Let's do our best to be there for each other. Go play a game or not. Go read a book. Do something nice for yourself and for the ones around you that you love. Like hang out with Jason Finelli. That was a nice thing for me. Jason, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talk about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
To do it. It was a nice way to get out of my funk. I was describing my feelings this morning as I drove the kids to school as that moment when noise cancellation headphones activate and you're just in that weird whoa, and you can't really hear anything. That's what it was. So to get that out of my system and to talk here with you is something I very much appreciate. And I just want to echo what you said. Reach out to people who might be affected by this in your life. Make sure they're okay. Do what you can for them. Empathy will get us through whatever is coming. The strongest thing you can do is be empathetic and just nice to the people around you. And I can't really say it any better than that. So,
yep.
Be careful, be safe, enjoy yourselves, and that's it.
It's it just takes a couple people who really can push this stuff forward with love. Everyone else is gonna be miserable, and I don't blame anyone for doing that. But let's try to be a pillar here or there where we can. It's not going to be a constant thing. When you can, do it. No. All right. Let's see. Anything else I wanted to mention? No, I think we're good. Oh yeah. 18 Hours of Extra Life is now live on YouTube. Sean got the whole archive put up. I think he said even something about doing timestamps, which is insane, but he might be doing that. At the very least, though, go watch it. It's a really good time. If you missed it, there are several incredible moments. Not several. There's dozens of incredible things because it's just jam-packed with amazing moments. So go watch that if you want. Put it on the background over the next couple of days and enjoy yourself. All right. Well, thank you once again, Jason. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.
Hey, yo. The headphones aren't letting me put this hat on the way I wanted to. Sorry.